Welcome to my YouTube channel, and today I am reviewing the iPhone 5S. I was given an iPhone 5S from my granny a week ago. My granny removed the Apple ID from their iPhone 5S and I reset it. Now it should get to the setup screen. Before I turn on the iPhone 5S, let's talk about the history of the iPhone 5S. The iPhone 5S is the seventh main iPhone and it was launched along with the budget-friendly iPhone 5C on September 10, 2013. iPhone 5S was released on September 20, 2013, for $199 plus contract, or $649 or £549 unlocked for the 16GB base model, with 32GB and 64GB models available for $100 or £80, and $200 or £160, more respectively. iPhone 5S was even more successful than iPhone 5, with over 9 million units sold over the opening weekend, a 80% increase over the iPhone 5 over the opening weekend. It eventually became the sixth best-selling mobile phone in the world, with over 160 million units. iPhone 5S remained as a budget model after iPhone 6 was launched in September 2014 and was discontinued in March 21, 2016 with the launch of iPhone SE. Let's talk about the design. The iPhone 5S uses the same familiar aluminum design with chamfered edges as the popular iPhone 5. iPhone 5 measures 123.8 mm long, 58.6 mm wide and 7.2 mm thick and weighs 112 grams. iPhone 5S comes in three colors, which are the familiar silver color as well as redesigned space gray color, which replaced slate color in the predecessor, and all new gold color. Mine is in silver color. The iPhone 5S features a redesigned home button with Touch ID, which is the first for an iPhone, which I'll test later in this video. At the back, it has a redesigned 8-megapixel rear eyesight camera with flash, and plastic cutouts for antennas. At the top, it has a power button, and at the left it has a ring, silent switch and volume buttons, and at the right it has a SIM tray, and finally at the bottom it has stereo speakers, a 3.5mm headphone jack and a lightning port. Let's set up the iPhone 5S. I am booting up the phone and it takes around 31 seconds. Once it is booted up, I proceeded by choosing a language and region, which in this case is English and the United Kingdom respectively. Next, I chose the preferred Wi-Fi network and I am waiting for the phone to activate. Fortunately, this iPhone doesn't have activation lock after resetting the phone. I set up the default data and privacy settings and skipped Touch ID and passcode for now. I went to set up as a new device. Logging to my Apple ID on this iPhone is flawless. I entered my email address and password and I had to enter the verification code to make sure it is mine. I agreed to the terms and conditions and I went through the relevant pages such as Express settings, software updates, screen time, and analytics. When the setup is finished by finally pressing the Get Started button, I am greeted with the iOS 12 home screen. Let's talk about the display of the iPhone 5S. The iPhone 5S retains the same display of iPhone 5, with a 4-inch Retina IPS display at 1136 by 640 pixels at 326 pixels per inch. It has a 5-point multi-touch touchscreen and it is claimed to have 800:1 contrast ratio and 500 nits brightness. Compared to flagship Android phones from that era like Samsung Galaxy S4 and HTC One M7, where these were pushing larger screen sizes and higher resolutions, with the HTC One M7 having a 4.7-inch 1080p Super LCD 3 display and Samsung Galaxy S4 having a 5-inch 1080p Super AMOLED display. Compared to these phones, the iPhone 5S is relatively small and low resolution. Apple finally increased the screen size and resolution in the successor, iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, where they have 4.7-inch 750p and 5.5-inch 1080p displays respectively. This specific iPhone 5S model currently runs iOS 12.4.4. The iPhone 5S shipped with iOS 7 initially, with updates to iOS 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12, making it the first iPhone to support 6 iOS versions. Apple continued support for iOS 12 security updates until January 2023, with the last being iOS 12.5.7. Compared to 2013 flagship Android phones, such as Galaxy S4, HTC One and Nexus 5, where they only supported 2 years of software updates. Due to the outdated version of iOS, app support is going to be a big issue. Most apps and games, e.g., Facebook, Discord, Google and YouTube now require a minimum of iOS 15, 16 or 17, and even Temple Rush and Geometry Dash now require iOS 13. When I try to download an incompatible app, it shows a message that the specific app is incompatible, but when I try to install an app already installed on other iOS devices, it shows a prompt if I want to install the last compatible version for the iPhone 5S, so I downloaded on a more recent device and then downloaded some apps on iPhone 5S. Let's run the apps. Google works well on iOS 12, as do most Google apps except YouTube. This includes Google, Chrome, Google Maps, Gmail, and Google Docs editors. I am able to log in my Google account on these apps. I am also able to search on Google, browse on Google Chrome, read and send Gmail emails, and explore the locations on Google Maps, as well as read and edit documents, spreadsheets and presentations on Google Docs, Sheets and Slides respectively. YouTube doesn't work as it shows errors when loading. Next, let's turn our attention to Discord on iOS 12. I am able to install an older version of Discord through the App Store after installing on another iOS device. Logging to my Discord account is flawless. After logging into my Discord account, I am able to read channels and post content. As I mentioned, there aren't many games still compatible with iOS 12, but I have managed to download a few games such as Hill Climb Racing and Candy Crush Saga, which are still compatible with iOS 12 at the time of filming. Surprisingly, the iPhone 5S still run these games well despite 12-year-old hardware. If you enjoy watching this video, please like this video and subscribe to my channel to support my channel. The iPhone 5S has an 8-megapixel rear camera that, while the megapixel count is unchanged from iPhone 5 or even iPhone 4S, the camera sensor on 5S had enhanced specs, notably 15% larger sensor, larger 2.2 f-number aperture and 33% higher light sensitivity, and provided enhanced features over the predecessor, including the ability to record in slow-mo at 720p at 120 frames per second, and all-new True Tone Flash that has two different LED flashes in white and amber colors for more natural images with flash. As for the images taken using the iPhone 5S were well exposed in bright and medium light with HDR support, but the quality falls apart in low light environments unless flash is used. This phone can record video at 1080p 30 frames per second as well as slow-mo at 720p 120 frames per second, which is the first for an iPhone. As I mentioned, the iPhone 5S is the first iPhone with a fingerprint scanner, known as Touch ID. To calibrate, someone needs to repeatedly press their finger on the home button over and over until the calibration is done. Once done, they can press the same finger on the home screen to unlock the phone without requiring a passcode. Passcode is needed as a backup solution. Touch ID is used to make purchases and log into accounts. The iPhone 5S comes in 16, 32 or 64 GB configurations, same as iPhone 5, and mine is 16 GB configuration, of which, as of iOS 12, about 6.5 GB is used by the system. Unfortunately, iPhone 5S doesn't have a micro SD card slot. Let's test the performance of the iPhone 5S. The iPhone 5S is the first smartphone with a 64-bit processor, powered by Apple A7. Apple A7 is a dual-core system on a chip running at 1.3 GHz on a 28 nanometers process node. It was powered by quad-core PowerVer G6430 GPU. The iPhone is paired with 1 GB of RAM. As for the benchmarks, Antutu benchmark crashes on iPhone 5S and Geekbench 6 isn't compatible with iOS 12. I tried to run Speedometer 3.1 on the phone but it freezes. Instead, I had to run Speedometer 2.0 on the browser on iPhone 5S and got 18.52 points, which is very low by today's standards, and today's entry-level phones get around 40 to 60 points in Speedometer 2.0. As for the real-world performance, the iPhone 5S is surprisingly snappy when swiping through pages and opening first-party apps, due to performance optimizations in iOS 12, but can sometimes stutter in opening Notification or Control Center. Opening third-party apps is slow due to the outdated system on chip. As for the pricing, the iPhone 5S can be found on eBay for around £20 to £25 for the base 16GB model, and you can get a higher storage variant for a bit more, at around £30 to £35. So, is it still worth it in 2025? No. The iPhone 5S is not worth it due to a number of reasons. As I mentioned, the iPhone 5S runs a maximum iOS version of iOS 12.5.7, which iOS 12 itself is almost 7 years old, and you're going to have compatibility issues with newer apps. If you are looking for a cheap iPhone, the cheapest iPhone I can recommend is iPhone SE 2nd generation, which costs £35 to £50 in acceptable condition and 80% battery health, and £60 to £80 in great condition and above 95% battery health. The iPhone SE 2nd generation supports iOS 18 and, soon, iOS 26 and has full app compatibility. Thank you for watching this video. Help support my channel by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Leave a comment if you still have an iPhone 5S.